In this tutorial, I'm going to be showing you how to create a monochromatic painting. So it's a little hard to see this whole painting in here right now because my screen is a little small, but you can see monochromatic means one color with many different values. Okay, so lights and darks are the same color. So I'm going to show you very quickly how to mix those different shades and apply them to your painting. So a few things: you want to get a paper plate of your colors. If you notice, this is a small paper plate and my dollops of paint are only about the size of a quarter. This one's spread a little bit. Just get one pump with the paint and that should be more than enough. You don't want to glob all the paint in the middle because then you won't have any space to mix your different values. Now, if you are doing a tertiary color, like blue-green or something, or yellow-orange, what you're going to do is get a 3-ounce cup, mix the color in there. So I mixed yellow and orange together, or the student mixed it. They stirred it with the back of the brush so it's a nice even shade or nice even color. And then they put a lid on top and they put their initials on it. And then at the end of the class, I put this in the cabinet away for them so that no one takes it. So if you're someone who's doing a tertiary, other than blue-green, which is pre-mixed, or red-violet, which is also pre-mixed, you are going to want to do this. And then you would take this and scoop it onto the plate, and there you have your hue. So I am doing blue-green for this. Now, typically what you want to do in a monochromatic painting is you want to have unity throughout your piece of art. So you don't want to have one area being very dark in the painting and then another area being very light. If you notice in here, I've kind of spread my values around. It's almost like if you had a class full of kids and you had a big bag of mixed candy and you went over and you dumped all the candy on one kid's desk and said, "Here, eat this." All the other kids would be like, "Why didn't I get candy?" But if you make sure you give a little bit to you, 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 then all the kids are happy, everyone has a little bit of candy, and everyone gets along. So in art, I know it's kind of a weird analogy, but everything's always about food for me. That is how we unify a piece of art. We do a little bit here, a little bit here, a little bit here, and then it all looks pulled together and cohesive. So, that being said, let's decide what areas of this painting we want to have a light value. So if you're having trouble, you can either figure that out on your own based on, your own vision for your piece, or based on if you know how to determine where a light source would be and then what would be light based on that. You can do that as well. Or you can look at reference photos. So I took a reference photo from online and I converted it to black and white in Google Docs, and I'm referring to it now. So I'm going to look at my lightest values. So I'm going to begin by taking some white. Now also, we're going to talk about food again. Pretend that this is a buffet line, okay? I'm going to scoop a little bit of white over here, and then I'm going to also scoop a little tiny bit of blue-green over to there, and then I'm going to mix. If you notice, I didn't take the blue-green and mix it into the white, okay? Because I don't want to mix my food together. I am going to, when you go to a buffet, you scoop a little bit onto your plate, and then you go back to your table and you eat. You don't stand there with a fork and eat at the buffet table. That's gross, okay? So now I have my lightest value. So, and like I said, I can look in my painting and kind of determine what areas I want to be light. So I'm going to work here, and this part of the bridge are going to be very light. So I'm going to paint those areas in. Now, because I'm doing the trees, I'm kind of doing a little bit of textured move right now. You can also do nice smooth strokes with your brush. It's really up to you how you'd like to do this. But if you notice, I'm not saying I'm going to do the trees, I'm going to do the tree right now, or I'm going to do all the leaves on the tree. I'm picking a value. And the great thing is that I am mixing the value once and then I paint it all over the place. So that actually creates less work for me in the long run because I have to do less mixing. So that's great. Another thing too is, like I said, it's also going to help my piece to look unified. So I'm looking at my painting and I'm finding anywhere where I have light values in my reference photo. Okay, we said I'm going to do the top of this bush. Okay, now obviously I would go in and find more places and do more detail, but I don't want this to be a 45-minute video. So I'm going to move on to another value. So from here, what I can do now is I can do sort of a light medium value. So you'll notice this value is darker than the previous one, but it is still lighter than my pure hue. So when you hear me say your pure hue, I am referring to the color as it appears on the color wheel. So blue, blue-green, red. Once we add white, it's a tint, and once we add black, it's a shade. So then I would distribute this value evenly all over the place. Okay? Now I can make some that are lighter or darker in between that if I choose, or now I can start to just paint some values that are my regular value if I would like. So I'm washing and drying my brush. Okay, so I can just do my pure hue in some areas, like this. And I would, like I said, spread that value around evenly as well. Now, once I've done this, I am going to want to start to move into my shades. So, a shade is a color plus black, okay? It's darker. Now you have to be very careful about the amount of black you use in your shade because the black paint is very concentrated. So again, I'm not putting black in here. I'm saving that for mixing other values. I'm going to take the teeniest bit of black and swirl it around evenly. Also, if you notice, when I am painting, I'm always pulling from the middle. And I'm keeping my pile about the size of a quarter, okay? I'm not swirling all over the place. If you do that, you are never gonna have nice, evenly mixed values. Another thing too is sometimes you wanna mix together with a bigger brush and then switch to a detail brush when it's actually time to paint. So I'm doing sort of a darker value right now. And I would, obviously paint that, and then if I wanted to make a shade that was even darker, I could add more black, and this is a much darker value. Okay, and now I have kind of a very dark shade of blue-green, and that's going to allow me to have a nice wide range of value. Now another thing that you can do in your monochromatic painting is you can create something called a tone. I'm going to do this really quick for you. So it's when you have white plus black equals gray plus a little bit of your hue. And that creates another value for you that is also a more subtle version of your hue that you're using. At the end of class, you're going to throw this in the garbage. You're going to put your brushes in the dirty brush cup, put your artwork on the drying rack, and make sure you clean up your area.